I've never been associated with anything I could be more proud of. And now we're here on the other side of it, having successfully achieved this remarkable result because of the graciousness and the generosity of the people of the state of California.
Now, it took more than 2 weeks to make it final, but California voters passed Proposition 1, a statewide ballot measure to overhaul our mental health care system, top of mind today after winning by a small margin yesterday. Of course, we're going to bring in our political analyst, Gary Dietrich. And while Newsom has called this a victory, critics say it's really just throwing more money at a problem, right?
You went all in on this, right? Remember how the ads and everything, and hearing him talk about it, Gary, there's a lot at stake. He also said at 5 o'clock, and we played this sound, what I would say about Proposition 1 is you will be proud. So what are we going to be proud of that this has passed barely?
Yeah, well, let's start at the beginning. You make an important point, Tony. $12 to $20 million. Yeah. That's what people say he spent on this. The opposition, several thousand. This passed, friends, by 0.4%. I mean, barely, barely. Now, what is it going to do? Well, it's going to provide billions of dollars to address certain portions of homelessness, but there's been a lot of concerns, even by progressive Democrats, who say it's going to take money from mental health treatment to put it into mental health housing. So there's a long ways to go. And the other thing about it is people have said this is going to provide, maybe 10,000 units of housing, but there's hundreds of thousands needed. So, Tony, I think it's important to have people have right expectations with things when they, vote for something on the ballot. This is not going to solve the homeless problem, but what Newsom is hoping is it helps him turn a corner in terms of dealing particularly with the mentally ill and homelessness.
Yeah, we got to remember, we talked about this. He canceled the State of the State address in part because this thing wasn't a done deal.
Well, I would say pretty much in total because he didn't want to get up in front of the folks at that podium and say, well, we have no idea if that $6 billion is coming through.
Right.
That's why it was postponed. We don't have a date yet for a renewed. And by the way, I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
A State of the State postponed.
Right, saying that, we've got these issues to address. So hold on a second.
Yeah.
I'll come back
Wait
to that,
just a minute. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, now having closed-door negotiations with Democrats, though, I can only imagine what the GOP has to say about that. Is this unique for the governor to shut out the Republicans like that?
Well, it's unique in the modern era. And the reason it's happening is because the Democrats control the legislature. I mean, that's just it. Numerically, they do not need Republican votes to pass a budget. But I will tell you guys, historically, over many, many decades, they had what was called the Big Five, which was the legislative leaders of both parties and both houses sitting down with the governor. And so, yes, Republicans are exceptionally upset about it. Local Sacramento Senator Roger Nilo, who vice chair of the Senate Budget Committee, said today, hey, we represent 8 million people in our Republican Senate caucus. We don't have any say at the table.
Well, you shut out voices based on the R or the D, and that's just a bigger problem. I don't care which side you're on, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Middle East, because there is a possibility that Netanyahu will address Congress, being invited.
Yep.
This has the potential, if it hasn't already, to become a major player in the presidential race, right? So is he going to come, and how is that impact going to be felt when it comes to November?
Well, as we've talked about, guys, this issue is going, it's widespread. We had a vote on our own city council here Tuesday night, right? And now we're going to see clearly, I think Netanyahu is probably going to come because he wants to make sure people know, listen, I plan to be the leader of Israel, regardless of what Chuck Schumer said last week in the Senate. And this is turning out to be quite let's just say, an electoral football, because Republicans are all in on this, and the Democrats are split. This is what's going to be the challenge for the president and for House Democrats. Some say they're going to boycott a Netanyahu speech. Others say, no, we're absolutely going to be there. Right now, this continues to be a serious political problem within the Democratic Party, and could be, as you point out, Tony, a serious issue come the fall.
Can you imagine the security detail that will have to go into play if Netanyahu does?
Right.
And the demonstrations we're going to see.
Yeah. All right, Gary, how's your bracket looking?
My bracket right now looks, I don't follow the brackets. Tony, our UCSB Gauchos are not in there.
I know. Well, that's not surprising.
My grad school team, the Harvard guys, are not in there. So somebody over here, though, does have a dog in the.
Let's go Gators.
I'll go ahead and go with the Gators. Okay, so I'm going with the Gators just because.
There you go.